are watching from, wherever you find yourself walking into the building today, maybe you're watching this and it's not even a Sunday and you stumbled upon this message. I believe that God has a message for you today. I hope you came ready to hear from God, not to hear from an Australian crazy talking fast chick, but I hope you came to hear a word from God today. Are you ready? Let's dive into the word of God. I'm going to read from Genesis 27, starting in verse 39, and it says, "Finally, his father Isaac said to him," today we are looking at the story of Jacob and Esau. He said to Esau, "You will live away from the richness of the earth and away from the dew of the heaven above. You will live by your sword and you will serve your brother. But when you decide to break free, you will shake his yoke from your neck." I want to jump down to Genesis chapter 33, verse 3-4. And it says, "Then Jacob went on ahead, and as he approached his brother, he bowed to the ground 7 times before him, and Esau ran to meet him and embraced him, threw his arms around his neck and kissed him, and they both wept." And then Luke chapter 15, verse 20, maybe one of my all-time favorite verses in all of Scripture. It says, "So he returned home to his father, and while he was still a long way off, his father saw him coming. Filled with love and compassion, he ran to his son, embraced him, and kissed him." Church, I want to talk to us today around a subject that I have entitled Tethered. Tethered. Can you say hi to a couple of people around you as you take your seats today? If you're online, right, tethered in the chat. I'm 35 years old. I know, I look 21. Thank you so much. And I am constantly surprised at how quickly my 10-year-old self can just poke out, you know? We are grown-ups. Isn't that wild? And if you've been on spring break with your kids this week, you're probably super ready for them to go back to school. It has felt like 84 years. But it's so crazy to me how quickly we can revert back to our childhood self. You can own a company, a business, and be on a business call outside and see some cracks in the pavement, and all of a sudden you're like, "Oh, can't step on them or I'll fall and break my back." Or for me, I was on my honeymoon last year with my husband, and we were in a beautiful resort in Mexico, and we're on the lazy river, just lazying, and this woman started calling out to her husband. And it's not my fault. His name was Marco. What did you expect me to say? They were like, "Ma'am, you've really got to stop yelling polo at her." And I was like, she was asking for it, 1,000%. My husband, he's the real Christian in our marriage. You know how every marriage needs at least one real Christian? Where's the spouse that isn't the real Christian in the room? Anyone? Thank you for your honesty. The rest of you, well, we'll talk about that later. He is. He's compassionate, he's kind, he's wise, and he's a real pastor. You could be pouring your heart out to my husband, and yet, if you accidentally, in the middle of pouring your heart out to him, say the word "do," and then in quick succession, repeat that word "do," if you say "do-do," Pastor Tim is gone, an 11-year-old Tim that cannot pull it together, cannot control himself. It's crazy how much we revert back. Just memories. I remember being in the 4th grade, and I don't know if you can tell, but I'm not much of an athlete, and I tried to be. I had such a competitive nature growing up. I just didn't have the hand-eye coordination to be able to back it up. I was a really good trash talker. I would just then get sent off because I accidentally dribbled the ball or something like that. And I was like, but it was cool. And so I was trying, our track and field day was coming up soon, and Mrs. Wedmore came in and she let us know that this year of the track and field day, she was going to be introducing a new sport. And I thought, this is brilliant. This is what I've been praying and fasting, Pastor Jesse, for. I have been circling this, like Mark Battison said, this is my moment, God has come through. She said, "School, the new sport we're going to be introducing this year at our track and field day is power walking." I'm like, look at God. He's been preparing me for this for 10 years in a row. I have been walking ever since I could walk. I obviously was a kid, and so that made sense in my head. And so I was like, God has Mr. Miyagi'd me, and he's been preparing me without me even knowing it to be able to go to the Olympics, stand on that podium for Australia, sing the national anthem while I'm about to get the gold medal, and then all of a sudden just be like, all glory to God. And any leftover glory can obviously go to me. I was so excited. So Mrs. Wedmore, she takes us outside to do a practice race, and she says, ready, set, go, and we start walking, and I am passing kids left to right and center because I still wasn't great with my eye coordination. I was running into kids for sure, passing them like you pass people in rush hour traffic that go too slow, and you're like, wow. So this side knows what I'm talking about. You guys are lying. I'm passing people. I come second in the practice race, which for me, basically, I'm a national athlete at this point in my brain. Like, this is brilliant. The girl that beat me, her name was Rebecca Walker. Rigged from the very beginning. They obviously didn't believe in handicaps for privileges like a name with the actual race word involved. Walker, are you kidding? But I wasn't gonna be deterred. I was like, I got 2 weeks. And you bet Rebecca Walker, I'm gonna beat you on that day. So my mixtape of S Club 7 and Spice Girls and Eye of the Tiger for good measure, and I would walk literally everywhere, guys. I was walking every single day around my backyard because I was 10, so it would have been child abuse if my parents had let me actually go outside and walk. But the race day came and I was ready. I'd already gotten the schedule for the track and field day a few days earlier from my teacher's desk, because I was a pastor's kid, and so we stole things all the time. So I had calculated that if I lined up to get these red frogs, which would be like the Australian version of Swedish fish, but better, you know, just like Australia. I'm kidding. What, Elyse? Who would say that? That would be ridiculous. I'm lining up for these red frogs. Swedish fish plus a tiny bit of anointing is the best way for me to describe them, and I am imagining myself at the Olympics, and all of a sudden, behind me, I hear the race gun go off. I turn around, drop my red frogs, and I start seeing that my race is currently being run. Yeah, turns out that if they're going earlier than scheduled, the teachers don't slow down for people to wait up. They're just excited that they get to go home early that day. I'm like, what is happening? Rebecca Walker is walking my race. Rebecca Walker is winning my race. Rebecca Walker has just won my race. There goes my athlete's career. I run to the judges table and I'm like, Mrs. McGovern, this has got to be some kind of issue. She looks at me and she's like, I do not know what to tell you, Elyse. I just teach 5th grade English. I wish you would go away. I'm 35 years old. I was 10 then. To this day, if I'm having a bad enough day, if I spill coffee on myself, if I get stuck in traffic, you will catch me under my breath going, Rebecca Walker. Here's my question. How often do moments from our past become a straitjacket that stop us moving into our future? That moment when you were a kid where you feel like something got stolen from you, a moment, a race, a competition, whatever it was, and sure, we should have been over it. Sure, we should have moved on, but there is something on the inside of it. There's this duality of being an adult where just 1 second you were taken right back to your 10-year-old self. And instead of finding a way to move on, we are stuck finding someone else to blame. Late last year, I got to take my husband and my 2 girls to Australia to meet my family. It was amazing. It was so much fun. And yeah, I became the youngest child again surprisingly quickly. Has that ever happened to you? Well, you've been away for a really long time, whether you've been to college and you're going home or a long work trip or just some kind of extended being away. And you were convinced that while you were away, you grew, you matured, and you know your family is gonna see this whole new you when you walk in the door. And so you walk through the front door of your childhood home, and yet instead of being mature, before you can kick off your shoes for somebody else to put away, because obviously, you revert back to being that role that you play in the family story that you have. You didn't know? Oh, your family's had a story well before you were born. Your family was telling a story long before, and they will be telling it long after. And when you were born into your family, you were given this role to play in your family. Oldest children, responsible. Middle children, we don't know who you are. Youngest children, you kick your feet off. That is the role we were born to play. Here's my problem. If we're not careful, we tether ourselves to the identity and the role in our family rather than stepping into the calling and identity that God has given us as a son or a daughter of God. We're all tethered to something. It's this adult duality. How can I be so mature in this area and so stunted in that area? It's how you can be an incredible employee, manage multiple departments and have complex projects and have mentors that you are teaching things, and yet when it comes to your home life, you cannot confront things. You shut down the second your spouse brings up a fight. Or it's how you can have your finances in such great order. You have savings, you have like a banging 401k, and yet when it comes to your time management, chaos. Always overbooking yourself, always running late. Your health is a concern because you are always exhausted, or maybe closer to home, you're speaking everywhere. You've got books. People are asking you to be on their podcast, and yet your personal life can't take any criticism. No one really knows you, and the secret's way too much. How do we all struggle with this adult duality? Jacob in the Bible, the one I just read about, he struggled with this same duality, and yet there is this moment, Jacob and Esau, twins, that I just read where they have this reunion after they hadn't seen each other in decades, and their reunion is incredible. It looks like a Hallmark reunion. They embrace. Esau throws his arms around his neck and they both weep. That is a Christmas movie waiting to happen. Candace Cameron Bure, get ready. And yet, have you ever met someone in the church lobby and they don't really know you that well, but they compliment you on your marriage or your family or your kids that have both of their socks on and they're in church and they seem to be growing up in the house of God, and you just think, if only you really knew. If only you knew what it took for my marriage to get this healthy. If only you knew what we had to fight through, what we had to work through, and what we both decided to stay even though it would have been okay to leave. If only you really knew how my business became this successful, the cost that it took me, the sacrifice that it gave me. But because we're in church, we're like, oh, thank you so much. Well, church, if only you really knew these boys. I'd like to show you a little bit about them today. I'd like to take you on a journey, but in order for me to bring you here to this reunion, I have to take you back. Jacob, he struggled with adult duality. You see, his resume in the Bible is really impressive. Like, his LinkedIn is fire, for real. Jacob, he's got a great resume. Jacob was the one that wrestled with God. He's the one that had the dream of the stairway to heaven before AC/DC did. He was the one who was Joseph's dad. He was the Jacob and Abraham, Isaac and Jacob. Like, bro, you got a good resume. And yet, Jacob's name, it meant deceiver. Jacob manipulated everyone around him to get what he had. Jacob was mature in some areas and incredibly stunted in others. He couldn't be more different from his twin brother Esau. The Bible tells us, kind of compares the two. Esau was the older twin in their brotherhood. Esau, he was an outdoorsman, a skilled hunter. He was his dad's favorite. Isaac's favorite was Esau. And then the Bible tells us he was incredibly hairy, which is a weird flex, but okay, you know? Random details in the Bible that I'm like, what? Why? Okay, cool. Jacob, on the other hand, the Bible literally said he was of quiet temperament. He enjoyed being indoors and he was a mama's boy. Didn't say it like that, that's my version of it. So basically we can find out about Jacob that he enjoys playing Fortnite and cooking with his mom. That's what we know about Jacob. We don't know much about Esau. He's the older brother. He was supposed to have the birthright and the blessing. Did you know it was supposed to be Abraham, Isaac, and Esau? Sounds weird, doesn't it? Here's what happened. One day, Jacob was cooking in the kitchen. The Bible calls it some red stuff, which tells us that Jacob wasn't going to MasterChef anytime soon. If the Bible's like, I don't know what that is, but it looks red, so let's label it red stuff, you know it's probably not one of your spiritual gifts, you know? Esau had been out hunting in the field. He was starving, and he comes home and he says to Jacob, give me some of that red stuff. And Jacob says, give me your birthright, which you would think those two do not make sense. But what if the greatest temptation and enemy to your long-term calling is the satisfaction you're so desperate for today? Because when you're hungry, you'll eat anything. And often that anything has a high price. So he sells his birthright for a bowl of red stuff. But he still has the blessing. Scholars say it would have been 1 or 2 decades later, and by this time, Isaac is about to die. You see, the blessing wasn't given until the father was about to die, and the blessing was the inheritance, okay? The blessing was the notoriety in society. The blessing was the land and everything that came with it. He was about to become the man of the house, and you know that he was waiting for that moment. You know that saying, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me? He was not about to let this slip through his fingers, and one day Isaac says, Esau, come in, it's time. I'm very old, I'm very blind, go and make my favorite meal, come in, we'll eat it together, and I'll give you the blessing. Esau's like, bet, here we go. I'm about to make amends to all that stuff that happened in my young and dumb years ago. He goes out to get the game and fix the meal, but he doesn't know. Rebecca was listening. Rebecca, Isaac's wife, Jacob and Esau's mom, fangirl of Jacob, and she pulls Jacob in and she's like, hi, sweetie, look at you cooking red stuff. Let's talk about that later. Here's the thing. Your dad pulled Esau in and it's time for the blessing. But he doesn't deserve it, you deserve it. So here's what I need you to do. Go out to the field, go and get some goats, bring it in, and I'll make his favorite meal because my husband should know I'm the one who knows how to make the favorite meal, not Esau. And then you go and pretend to be Esau, trick your father, and you'll get the blessing. Jacob's response is wild. This plan is flawed, by the way. Did I mention how different Jacob and Esau are from each other? They're not like identical twins. These two are opposites. But Jacob's biggest flaw in the plan, he looks at his mom and he's like, Mom, my brother is so hairy. I'm gonna go in and Dad's gonna know that it's me because I have smooth skin and he's gonna curse me, not bless me, which tells me 2 things. Jacob is a millennial. We get it, bro. You found a Groupon for some laser hair removal. You have smooth skin. We love that for you. But the second thing is, you guys, and maybe this is just me, but I'm like, how hairy does he have to be for that to be such a main concern? Like, was there nothing you could have done, dude? Was there no self-awareness involved? And yet what is crazy to me is that Rebecca is like, no, Jacob, I'm not like a regular mom. I'm a cool mom. I've already thought about this. Here's what's gonna happen. I'm gonna get the hair of the goats that we kill and I'm gonna put them on you. Your dad will never know. Don't worry, you'll still get the blessing. Jacob goes, gets the goats, brings them back. She makes the meal. He puts on the goat hair and he goes in and he says, Dad, it's me, Esau. Isaac has this moment where he knows he's blind and his ears heard something, but his spirit felt like something was off. And he's like, that was way too fast. No way you could have done that. And he has this moment with a check in his spirit. Church, I don't think the greatest issue with Isaac was that he was deceived. I think his greatest issue was that he didn't realize that God had already given him discernment. He just ignored it. Sometimes the greatest issue that we have, the most spiritual thing that we can actually do is listen to that feeling that we can't quite name, but that tells us that everything is not okay. Imagine if he had listened to that gut instinct that said not everything here makes sense, and yet he didn't listen. It's crazy to me. He allows him to come in, eats the meal, and Isaac gives Jacob, who's pretending to be Esau, his blessing. It says that when Jacob had scarcely left the house and Esau had arrived. Do you feel the movie scene in your head with the music getting more and more intense, the tension building, and just as Jacob had scarcely left, here comes Esau saying, I'm here, Dad, I've got your meal, I'm so excited, I'm gonna get it right this time, I'm ready for my blessing. Isaac starts shaking, trembling, realizing what the heck has happened. Who was just here because I already gave the blessing and you know there are no takebacks. You see, church, they understood something that we could actually take a leaf from in our day and age. They understood that when your words went out into existence, they couldn't just be taken back. When I was in school and we would say an offensive comment, we would just follow it up with no offense, as if it voided the offensive comment. But then I think about the God who created us. He created the world with his words, and he created us in his image, and yet we walk around as if the words that come out of our mouth or the words that we post online aren't there and causing some kind of powerful interaction with humanity. Isaac and Esau, they understood something, that the blessing was given and it would not be taken back. There were no takebacks. So Esau, he is having a tough time trying in real time to process this news. Dad, what do you mean? I was doing what you told me to do. How did he take my blessing? Tell me this. Have you ever been out in the field being faithful and doing the very thing that God had asked you to do, only to hear about somebody else that got your blessing? You had surrendered in the season, you had sowed the seed, you had put the time in at work, and suddenly the kid that literally just graduated college got the promotion that you've been working for decades. The person that you had been dating and you really thought was your person broke up with you, only to come over to church with somebody new the very next weekend and no one is blinking an eye. Or the person that you didn't do any of the project walks into class the next day and takes complete credit for the project. What do you mean that person stole my blessing? I'm the one that did the work. It's not fair. That is Esau. He is trying to process this news and he goes into bargaining and he's like, Dad, okay. Dad, come on. You've got to have something left for me. Do you not have one blessing for me? Dad, there has got to be something left for me. Have you ever prayed that? God, do you have something left for me? After a long time of silence, Isaac finally speaks and he says, you will live away from the richness of the earth and away from the dew of the heaven above. You will live by the sword. You will serve your brother. But when you decide to break free, you will shake his yoke from your neck. Church, I came to tell you today that I don't know what you have been tethered to. I don't know what they did to you, and I'm not saying that it was okay. I am just letting you know that you don't have to wait for them to be free of your past. You do not have to keep circling around in bitterness. You do not have to keep chained to the memories of what they said over you as if it is bigger than the God who died for you and who created you. And when you decide, you will be free when you decide to break free from the offense, to break free from the anger, to break free from the bitterness of your past. You will be free. And Esau hears that, and he is as mad as a guy that has been doubly crossed by his brother. He goes to find his brother to kill him, only to find out that his brother has been sent away to protect him. And then the story follows Jacob. You want to be free, right? I want to be free. That was given to Esau. Why do I have to follow Jacob's story? I want to know how Esau did it. But we don't get to follow Esau. We have to follow Jacob. Jacob runs away to his uncle Laban's and he finally figures out what it's like to be duped. Falls in love with this girl, works 7 years, and then Uncle Laban gives him his other daughter that has lazy eyes, again with the Bible's descriptions, you know? Jeez. And it's like, I'm still a little bit mad at Jacob in this moment, and I'm also a little petty, okay? Not saved enough not to be petty anymore. So like, I don't want anyone to be hurt, but it's kind of like that person that burned you. You find out on Facebook years later that they got caught up in like a multi-level marketing scheme, and you're like, Crashed your car. No one got hurt, right? No, but the car was totaled. Oof. How's it feel? I don't believe in karma, but you do reap what you sow. You know what I'm saying? You know how we Christianize everything? And so he finally realizes what it is like. And then what actually starts to happen is Jacob starts encountering God. Jacob has this very real moment wrestling with what the Bible calls a man with a capital M, which tells me That there were some moments in history that Jesus must have been in heaven with the Father and being like, hey, Dad, I know that it's not my time yet. I know that I'm meant to come a little while later, but would you just, Jacob needs to know. I need to talk to Jacob. Will you just let me? And the Father in this moment sends this pre-incarnate version of Jesus to wrestle with Jacob. And the question God asks Jacob is, what's your name? Don't tell me about the LinkedIn. Don't tell me about the resume. Don't tell me about all the things you're gonna post. Tell me what you really are. Be honest about where it hurts. Be honest about where you're broken. Be honest about what you're tethered to. My dad, when I was a little girl, he told me something I've never forgotten. And he said, Elyse, you're either tethered to your past or you're tethered to your future. You cannot hold on to both and expect to move forward. So what are you tethered to? I'm about to put this on. You try putting a belt on in front of a bunch of people, okay? It's gonna be awkward. Embrace it. It's that moment that you didn't deal with, that you thought you could carry through life only to figure out that you've never really made progress. You've always been tethered. So early on, when that person broke up with you because you were too much and simultaneously not enough, and it made you not actually deal with the pain of the rejection and the abandonment, you just tied a tethered cord of insecurity around your waist, and you started to believe this lie, and for a while it looked like you made progress. You dated again, you got on the dating apps, you even got married, you had kids, but then it started getting difficult because they started to find out some of the messy moments in your world and this insecurity of, oh my gosh, I'm being too much, hide from, but the problem is now you're in a marriage and they see you every single day and the fights and the emotions and things keep coming up and this rage keeps coming up, and one day you just break and they say, who are you? Who did I marry? And you are suddenly yanked back to that moment as a teenager when that person broke up with you because you never healed the wound. What about that teacher that said to you in the 3rd grade that you were no good at public speaking? And in that moment, you tethered to your waist this insecurity about public speaking. And for a while, it looked like you made progress. You got a job, you graduated college, you got promoted, you got put over different departments, but then it got harder to hide. And creating moments where you had to give presentations would make you physically ill. You would stay up all night preparing your departmental messages. You would actually deflect all of these speaking engagements because really you hadn't healed from that little 10-year-old boy. And then one day in a meeting, your boss says, hey, can you just give us a department update with no notice? You react overly, you get angry, you run out of the room just in time to be able to have a panic attack in the bathroom because you were pulled right back to being that 10-year-old who never dealt with what that teacher said over you. What about when you yelled at your kids when they were little because they spilt juice on your work documents? And you just snapped one day and you saw this fear in your kids' eyes, and that day, instead of working through it, asking for forgiveness and forgiving yourself, you tethered yourself to the shame of parenting moments. Looked like you made progress. You bought all these books on patience and kids. You never missed out on a date night with your kids. You never missed a game of soccer or a recital, and everyone around you thought that you were the perfect parent, but then you actually didn't enforce boundaries. And you gave them screen time so you didn't have to have confrontational moments with them. And you were wondering if this was ever going to come back to you. And then now they're 14 years old and you find out they've been skipping school and with the wrong crowd. And when they need their parent to have a difficult conversation the most, you feel completely paralyzed. Why? Because back here, you were terrified because you never dealt with that moment. You were holding on, tethered to a moment, instead of breaking free from it. So we've been following Jacob in this story between Jacob and Esau. And yet, In this moment where he is wrestling with God, and God says, "What is your name?" He has a decision to make. Am I going to decide to be honest? Am I going to decide to break free? Am I going to tell him I'm not who I pretended to be? I am Jacob. Can I tell you where I'm struggling with this currently? This breaking free from tethered pasts. I have a person in my life that will be there for a very long time that I have been carrying a lot of resentment for. They challenge my patience, test me constantly, and honestly, most days they make me really angry. I'm the one that carries responsibility. I'm the one that carries weight, and they come in whenever they want and make decisions that have ripple effects that they don't understand, and I'm the one that has to deal with. And honestly, church, if I told you the stories, you'd agree with me. It's not fair. They have taken authority, control, recognition. I don't think that they see what I do, and if they do, they don't acknowledge it. And honestly, it hurts so much. I'm just angry. But I've been wrestling with God on it. And I'm realizing I'm not Esau. I'm Jacob too. I have been holding on to bitterness and calling it righteousness. Because I've been holding on to this bitter righteousness, I have felt entitled. And it has caused me to perform and try to prove everyone that agrees with them wrong. I thought I was Esau, but I was confronted with my inner Jacob. And you know what's crazy? The people around me that I think I'm advocating for, the voice I think I'm being to the voiceless, they don't need me to be angry, they need me to be free. And the way that I am tethered to this bitterness and have been held back by this anger at this certain person, it's not affecting this person, it's affecting how I show up with the people I love most, and I have to decide. Because my pain isn't hurting this person, it's just holding me back. We follow Jacob's story because the backhanded blessing of Esau to break free wasn't just for Esau. It was for Jacob. It was for me. And just when you think it's for someone else, you find out it's for you too. You and I have a decision to make today. Are we going to allow ourselves to have this duality where we're fine in one area or we're okay in one season, but one thing sets us off because of something we didn't deal with, because we are tethered to something? Or today, will we decide it is time to break free? It is time to move past the thing that has been holding me back to my past. It's in that moment that I realized that my blame is holding me back, not them. So here we find ourselves, having gone back, and finally we're back here at the reunion between Esau and Jacob. We don't know where Esau has been, but he comes back with 400 men. So this guy that was living by the sword and living away for the land, he's done pretty good. But do you know how I broke free? I know that Esau broke free in the time that he's been gone, not because of all the stuff he has when he comes back, but because of how he runs towards Jacob, throws his arms around him, kisses him, and weeps. That is not a man that is holding on to contempt. That is not a man that is holding on to resentment. That is not a man that is trying to perform something or prove people wrong. That is a man that somewhere along the way decided, I'm over trying to live in this regret. I'm over trying to prove my dad wrong. I'm over trying to get this my own back against Jacob. I'm tired of my own actions. It is time to break free. He runs towards his brother. Luke chapter 15, verse 20. So he returned home to his father, and while he was still a long way off, his father saw him coming. Filled with love and compassion, he ran to his son, embraced him, and kissed him. Esau ran to meet his brother Jacob, but that's not the verse I just read. When I read that Esau ran to his brother, I was like, what does this remind me of? Flip forward to the New Testament. It's the story of the prodigal son. The older brother ran to the younger brother. The older father ran to the younger son. Why did they run? They didn't have to. If you don't know the story of the prodigal son, he goes to his dad one day. He says to his dad, give me my inheritance now. He goes and spends it on drugs, sex, rock and roll, and he hits rock bottom, sitting in a pig's pen as a Jewish boy who cannot be contaminated by pork, feeding the very thing he is prohibited from. Rock bottom moment. He thinks, I've got to go home. Even my dad's servants eat better than me. He stands up, starts going home, practicing his apology speech the entire way home. But while he is still a long way off, his father finds him, sees him coming, which tells us that he had been waiting for him for a long time, runs to his son, throws his arms around him, and just like Esau, weeps and kisses him, embraces him, welcome home. They didn't just run to break tradition. They ran because they had to get there first. You see, community was family back then. And if a son or a child decided to leave their home, decided to leave their family, they were leaving the entire community. And the community would make sure they never came home again. If you were going to abandon us, if you're going to reject us, you're never allowed to come back here. And here's what would happen. At that point where that child decided this was the wrong decision, I've got to go home, and they start coming home, the community would run to meet them. The dad would stay in the tent. He wouldn't even come out. The community would surround this poor child who has been humiliated, who is probably scared for their own life, and they would take these massive terracotta pots and they would smash them on the ground in front of these young boys. They would take shards of this terracotta pot and they would say, just like this pot, you are cut off from this family. How dare you try to come back here after you rejected us? You can't come home. Shame on you. You're cut off from this community. You're cut off from this family. Get out of here. Your dad doesn't want you. And yet, if the father could get there first, if the father could get to the son first and throw his arms around them, the community would back off and say, we get it. We get it. Esau ran to Jacob. The father ran to the son, not just because they were excited to see them. They ran because they knew, I've got to get to my son before shame can cut them off. And church, Jesus did that thousands of years ago. The father looked at his son and said, I've got to send you down there because I need my kids to know that they're not cut off, that I want to bring them home, that there's nothing that they could have done that would ever cause me to want to cut them off. That was for you. Whoever you are, whatever you have done, whatever you have been held back by, he came so you could cut the tether, not be cut off from him. And when you have been embraced by love, it is such a beautiful reminder that why wouldn't I extend it to someone else? Why am I holding myself back by holding on to that? And have everyone in this room bowing your heads online, taking this moment of self-reflection. I don't know where you find yourself. I don't know what your relationship with God has been like. I just know that he loves you. I don't know what you think has cut you off. I don't know what you have been tethered to of your own shame and your own past actions. Maybe you've been in church for a while, or this is your first time, or you logged on today for some strange reason. I don't believe in strange reasons or coincidences. I believe the Father wanted you here today to hear this message so that you would know that he wants to reconcile with you. Today, if you're saying, Elyse, would you pray with me? I need to start. I need to begin a relationship with God. I need to come home. I need to be embraced by love so that I can be tethering the things I've been held to in my past. I'm going to ask that on the count of 3, you would raise your hand so I know who I'm praying for today. Wherever you are in this room, there's already hands going up. 1, 2, 3, all over this house today. There are hands going up today. It is not too late for you. He loves you. He came after you. If that is you and your heart is beating, you raise your hand. If you need to come back into relationship with Jesus, today is the day of salvation. If that's you online, I want to encourage you to type it in the chat. You can put your hands down wherever you are. Would you stand to your feet today? Because there are some communities that cut people off, and there are some communities that welcome people home, and I'm so glad that we are the latter. We want to pray with you because you're not alone. Hear me. You're not alone. And we are so glad that you're here. So will you repeat this to me? Don't pray it to me, pray it to the Father today. Come on, church. Let's pray. Lord, I believe. Come on, Lord, I believe that Jesus Christ is the Savior of the world, that He gave His life to forgive my sins and was raised from the grave to give me life. I receive your grace by faith. Come into my life. I will follow you. Amen. Come on, church. Can we celebrate with them today?